What would the world be like without virtue? If there were no morality or virtue? Thank you. That's just right. As a matter of fact, you can come and give the rest of the talk next week. That was great. I'll pay him later. Think about it. If there wasn't any virtue or morality, people would lie. People would steal from one another. They would kill each other. They would cheat. They would exploit one another. They would abuse one another sexually. They would abuse intoxicants. Unfortunately, that's somewhat of a description of our situation, isn't it? But it would be worse if everybody did that. It would be bad, as you said. Let me read you a paragraph. This is from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. It was written when he escaped from Tibet in the 1960s in a cave in Bhutan. He said, "This is the hour of the dark ages, in which disease, famine, and warfare are raging like the fierce north winds. The Buddhist teaching has waned in strength. The various schools of the Sangha are fighting amongst one another with sectarian bitterness, and although the Buddhist teaching was perfectly expounded and many reliable teachings exist to this day, still others pursue intellectual speculations. The sacred teachings have strayed into cults, and the yogis are losing the insights of meditation. On the whole, no one acts according to the highest code of discipline or of meditation and wisdom. The jewel-like teaching of insight is fading. The Buddhist teaching is used merely for political purposes or to draw people together socially. As a result, the great blessings of spiritual energy are being lost. Even those with great devotion may begin to lose heart. If the Buddhas of the great ages were to comment, they would surely express some disappointment. So to enable individuals to ask for help and renew their spiritual strength, I write this sadhana of embodiment of all the great siddhas or yogas. And then it goes on for 12 pages of a kind of invocation of the spirit of great discipline and great honor and great compassion and great dignity. But there's something in that when you hear it, of the dark ages and sectarianism, not just in Buddhism, but really in a worldwide way. There is lying and stealing and killing of people and exploitation and cheating. That is to say, the absence of virtue. Now, what would the world be like if one precept were kept? Just one. Suppose we didn't kill on this planet. Imagine. How about if we didn't kill people? Forget about the poor animals. But if we just kept the precept that we didn't kill human beings on this earth, what kind of an earth would it become? Extraordinary to consider that. Or what if we just kept the single precept not to steal? It's not such a, complicated thing. If we just did it. When I practiced for the years that I was in robes as a monk, one followed these strict vows. And one of the vows was, of course, that monks were not supposed to steal. And it was one of the strictest vows. There were 4 vows out of 200 and more that if you broke them, from that moment you were no longer a monk and you never would be again in this life. One was the vow of celibacy. One had to do with killing or harming other human beings in some way. One had to do with causing dissension in the Sangha or claiming spiritual powers that you didn't have. And the last had to do with stealing anything worth more than a nickel. If you took something worth more than a nickel, consciously, that was it for this lifetime and you in the monastic life. That's an extraordinary precept, actually. It made one very careful not to pick up the slightest thing. And you could do it. It was actually quite wonderful. It made you very conscious. It's not just that someone would care or not, but that was your vow to keep. So what if we kept the precept on this earth not to steal? And no one did it. We just knew that's what you didn't do. Or the one precept not to speak falsely. Imagine, it'd be an unrecognizable society. There'd be a lot of businesses that folded immediately. There'd be almost no use for politics or government. Save a lot of money, right? If one's word was connected with one's honor always, as it has been in certain societies and certain times of the past. The fourth step, I believe, if I have this step correctly, in AA and the other 12-step programs, is to take a fearless moral inventory of one's life. Is that the fourth step? Yes. A searching and fearless moral inventory. That's quite a thing to ask of a human being, isn't it? And it's a wonderful phrase to take a searching and fearless moral inventory. It happens quite spontaneously on meditation retreats in times of silence. For many, many people, as you get still and turn your attention to your life away from the busyness, what is there to show itself? Quite spontaneously is a reflection of our deeds, of how we have lived and spoken and acted. It happens often to people as well when they're near their death. And you look back over your life, there's a spontaneous kind of moral inventory. Suppose we as a human species took a moral inventory. It would be a very mixed report, wouldn't it? Killing, stealing, lying, cheating, and so forth. But it's not just the species as a whole. We've all done it in some way. Yet I believe within us, within the human heart and the human consciousness, is an innate love of honesty and a joy in virtue and straightforwardness and the simplicity of goodness.